videotaping today. It's the 25th of March 1987, and we're visiting with who?
W0EQT.
And give a layout of your system here. What have you got?
Well, on the left here is the Corsair, the Ten-Tech Corsair. It's the low band transmitter, 160 through 10. And the microphone for that is the Shure 444D, which we're using on high impedance at the present time.
You might say what your name, QTH, and how long have you been operating, first of all?
Oh, since about 1951, I guess. And the name is Clayton Armbrecht, and the QTH is Ullin, Minnesota. Operated for about a year and a half out of McIntosh, Minnesota, with the old Viking 2, way back when.
Okay.
In AM days, yeah. Middle rig is a Kenwood.
We've got that kind of covered up here, but that's
7400A here, and the rig to the right is a Ten-Tech also. It's a Lollipop, a D104 mic on that one, and the power supply is to the right of that. That's the Ten-Tech.
And we've got a
Triton.
D104 covering that power supply up. If you move that a little bit, we can see it.
There we go. And here I got my Ham-M rotor control, and on here is the tape recorder to my left for logging. And underneath the desk here on the shelf are the power supplies for the Corsair and the Kenwood 7400 2-meter rig. And up there on the shelf we've got a speaker and a microphone, an unused microphone belongs to Cliff Bramble, WB0UKH, and the speaker and the touchstone pad up there.
Okay, what have you got setting on top of this Ten-Tech?
There we got a talking frequency counter here on there. It isn't warmed up enough to read yet. I guess we'll run that again though, just for the fun of it.
And more volume is right.
1.000.
Yeah, there we are. But like I say, it takes a little while to warm up before it reads out. I guess that's something that I never have been able to get permanently. Once in a while it'll take spells and it'll run good, and then for a while it'll go this way.
Okay, what type of an antenna system do you have outside?
For 2 meters we got the Cushcraft 20 element collinear up about 42 feet, and we've got a for 40 meters we got a coaxial dipole, and that's up at the apex about 35 feet on the house, and to the garage, and then back over the top of the house. We had it going to a elm tree in the front boulevard, but Dutch elm got that one. And then we've got a 3-band trap dipole. It's about 28 feet at the apex for 40, 80, and 160. And we also use it on, or also use the 40 meter one on 15. So we can get on those 4 bands without too much of a problem, I guess. That should get something up for 20 and 10 maybe, with the better conditions coming up, the changes in the atmospheric conditions, so that the band is better.
Okay, would you give me your name, call, and QTH again?
Name is Clayton Armbrecht. The call is W0EQT, and the QTH is Ullin, Minnesota.
Okay, and who am I talking to today? You might give your call letters, name, and so forth.
Yes, I'm Marlo Perry's, and my call is W0ML, Mike Lima. And I've been a ham since 1936, when I was first issued the call W9WZQ.
Have you been living here all the time, and where is that?
Well, I was originally in Fargo. I had lived in Fargo for many years, but the last 30 years I lived in Moorhead.
What types of rigs did you start out with back in the 30s?
Well, the first rig I ever had was a 53 push-pull crystal oscillator. And I remember my first contact was on 40 meter CW. I worked a I called CQ. I think it was a couple days after I got my call, and a guy in Leeds, South Dakota came back. I just about fell off the chair, as I recall. It was quite an experience. And I built all my gear back in those days. I had a TRF, a regenerative receiver, and other rigs, which I had built myself, and antennas. I think everything I had I built myself.
Okay, what type of rigs are you dealing with nowadays, and what type of operation do you do? CW, RTTY? Or?
Well, I operate on all three modes, really, talking of phone on single sideband. And I operate CW quite a bit. And the latest thing that I'm into now is RIDI, which I've been involved with for about the last 2 years. And I think I would have to say that working DX is my main interest in ham radio. I have 110 countries which I've worked on RIDI in the last 2 years. I have about 250 countries that I've worked as a total aggregate on all modes.
Would you describe the rigs you have in front of you and point them out? And
yeah, the
are?
rig that I have currently here is the Kenwood TS940, which I got last year to replace the 930 that I had, and the linear that I have now is this Ten-Tech Titan, which is capable of the maximum legal limit of 1500 watts, and the few station accessories like the Heath monitor, which I use for a tuning indicator principally on RIDI. And for RIDI use, I have the Commodore 64 computer with the AEA CP1 interface here, and a 12-inch green screen monitor, and I have a tape recorder here for use with RIDI. Another tape recorder I use for miscellaneous recording, and this is the controller for the rotator, which controls my TH7 tribander, which is outside on a 70-foot Roan tilt-over tower. So this is
very good.
This gear is mainly the stuff that I've had since last year.
Okay, very good. Good. What is your call, QTH, and name?
Yes, I'm Marlowe Perry's W0ML, W0 Mike Lima.
QTH.
Well, good afternoon, everybody, or evening, as the case may be. My name is Bill Snyder, Whiskey Zero Lima Hotel Sierra. I've been a ham since 1932, the day before Christmas. And here's my shack. If you want to follow me around, I'll give you a little quick tour of it. Over here we have a Titan 425 linear amplifier that'll run about the maximum power that you want. Up here is a 726, the Yaesu 726. This is a combination 2 meter and 70 centimeter. This is my Oscar outfit. Down here we have a 940, Kenwood 940. Up here is the screen that runs with the robot. This is a Robot 800 with high tones and all the modifications in it. Over here is the scope that I use for the to run with the tuning on the robot and on packet if I work high frequency. The clock up here, up above, is a PK232. That's the one of the packet units. Here's the other packet unit down here. This is a Tapper TNC2 with a PM1 high frequency unit on it. Now if you pan over there, this is a Xerox 6060. This is an IBM clone. It's also identical to the AT&T 6300 computer. And this I use for packet and also to run on the pack rad up there. And this runs the bulletin board that you see on there now. And then far way over, we have two printers. We have a Toshiba 321 printer, and way over in the corner, if you can get over there and see it, Gordy, it's a that's an old deck printer that I've had. And then way back over here in the corner, there's a tape recorder up above. Down over here is the satellite antennas. The satellite antenna control panel, and down below is a C64 computer that runs the satellite tracking antenna. And also there's the screen for that is hiding over here. Sort of cramped in here, but I think you can get an idea of what the shack is like.
My name is Paul Carufel, and my call is W0 P Peter Q Queen WM. I've had this call since 1933, the last month of 1933. And the only other call I ever had was in Alaska, KL7 Item Nan.
Okay.
From Ketchikan.
Oh, I see. How long were you up there in Alaska?
Oh, I was up there a lot. I was up there during the war and after the war, off and on. And then the last couple of times I took on contract work.
Sure.
For the Signal Corps.
You're QTH now. I guess you didn't mention that.
Oh, it's on the
It was on the call letters, I guess.
Yeah, it's on the Long Lake and on the east side of Long Lake, about 2 miles directly east of Detroit Lakes.
West of Detroit Lakes.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. What type of operation are you doing? Are you CW, phone, or?
No,
mostly?
I do both.
And what bands?
Well, 20 meters mostly, and this new band, this 30-meter band.
Oh, you've been operating that?
Yeah, that's strictly CW.
I see. Okay. Okay, describe your rigs. I see you got a bunch of them in front of you there. You might point them out as you're describing them. What's the first one nearest you?
This is the oldest rig I've got. This is an old Icon 21.
Okay.
I bought that from Tift when he was here.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
That thing is old.
Sure. Chuck Tift.
And
what's that one up above there?
Well, that's a TR 7400.
Right. For 2 meters. And describe things as you go along across the table there.
Well, this is a Temtec Corsair 2. That's the power supply. And that's the new amplifier that they built.
Okay, how much power is that?
That's the legal limit.
Okay.
Doesn't look it.
Not too large in size, is it?
No.
You must have a separate power supply.
Yeah, it's sitting there behind there on the.
Okay, I see it down there. It'd be kind of hard to see. It's kind of dark.
No, it's got. As far as power is concerned, it's just 1,500 watts means nothing to that thing.
Okay. Okay, what I'd like to ask you, I thought I saw a picture of you yesterday, and that was taken at some type of a ham fest up in Fargo in 1934. Were you there?
Yeah, where'd you see that picture?
Okay, I saw that picture over to Harley Softing's place yesterday, and I'll show it to you after we get done with our little recording here.
Is it an 8x10?
No, yes it is. Yes, it is. Did
I
you
want
have
to
a
get
copy?
a copy of that. We're trying to get a copy of that.
Okay, I'll show it to you here in a second. Again, what is your call letters, QTH, and name?
W0, P, Peter, Q, Quebec, W, Washington. The old phonetics we used to use in the 30s were Pennsylvania, Quebec, Washington. And when I have a hard time to explain to someone what my letters are, I use those old phonetics, and they never miss.
Okay, let's take a look. What type of a beam is that?
That's a Hornet.
A Hornet, okay, and a collinear up on top, I see, for 2 meters.
Just like that's pretty good. I had to take mine and redo it, though. It starts falling apart.
Okay, my name is Keith Gilbertson, KS0Z, Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. Been an amateur radio operator for about, thinking what year it is, about 15 years.
Okay.
Operate mostly DX, my primary interest. And this evening, Gordy and I are sitting here listening to DX stations coming in during a contest.
Do you know what contest this is?
Yeah, it's the worldwide DX contest.
Okay, we're recording this on the 27th of March, by the way. Okay, what type of rig do you have here?
We have the Kenwood TS 820S with a remote VFO, an amp supply linear.
Okay, we'll just take a look at the VFO here and on over to the Kenwood transceiver. And the linear is right over in this area here.
Top shelf right hand corner.
How much power does that run?
That runs a kilowatt.
Okay. And the power supply you have located somewhere else, I take it.
Underneath the bench.
Okay, what have you got over here?
Okay, we have a antenna tuner and standing wave bridge in the middle. Other equipment along the bench, of course we have the rotator control down here, a couple clocks. We have a computer interface here for working RIDI and CW, which
You do operate some RIDI, huh?
occasionally a little RIDI and some computer.
Do you have a printer, or do you...
Use the TV screen over here for the RIDI and read it out on the little screen.
Okay, very good.
Have a 2-meter rig over in the corner.
What type of a rig is that?
That's the Yaesu memorizer, which I've had for several years, I guess probably since it was new, 8-10 years ago, something like that. I forget exactly.
Okay, I see you've collected quite a few certificates. What are some of them?
Well, let's go across from the top. Right up on the left top row is the 5-band Worked All Continents certificate. Directly to the right, Worked All Zones.
Okay, continue on.
Going across, life membership plaque from the ARRL. The DX Century Club with the stickers for the various countries. Moving to the right, Worked All Europe. Okay. Further to the right, Worked All Continents on phone.
Okay. Down here?
Down on the right-hand corner is a prefix certificate for working various prefixes.
Okay.
To the left of that is the 5-band Worked All Zones certificate.
Okay.
In the middle, CQDX. That's an award put out by CQ magazine. The WAP is put out by the New Zealand Association of Radio Transmitters, which is given by their radio society. And then the other WPX is for mixed mode, sideband and CW contact.
Okay, I don't see this one down below there. It's hidden by your call letters, but what is that?
The one in the middle with the flag?
That's a certificate of graduation from some college, I believe.
Oh, yeah, I have a few of those there. And,
Okay.
And the middle American Radio Relay League, that's the 5-band Worked All States plaque that's in the middle. And,
Okay.
And off to the right is a Worked All States certificate right next to my radio
Okay,
license.
see here.
Then on the other wall, of course, there's various certificates that you
Okay,
probably
I guess I
can't.
won't be able to cover them, but you sure have a lot of certificates here. Okay. What type of an antenna system do you have outside?
Okay, we have a 50-foot tower with a wide-spaced 2-element 40-meter beam at the 50-foot level, and 3-element tri-bander at about 58 feet stacked on top of that, and a 2-meter 11-element antenna, and then various wires and sloping dipoles.
Okay, again, what is your call, QTH, and name?
Okay, my call is Kilowatt Sugar 0 Zulu. Name is Keith. I'm in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota.
Okay, would you give me your call letters and QTH, name, and so forth?
Yeah, my call is N0ARZ, Nancy 0 Alpha Romeo Zulu, and the handle here is Russ, QTH, Detroit Lakes, Minnesota.
When did you start your ham radio operating? How did you get started?
Oh, I was interested in ham radio when I was a youngster, but I didn't get around to it till later years, and I've been a ham here about 10 years now.
Okay. About 10 years. Have you been operating mostly voice or CW or?
Well, generally, mostly on phone, CW, not that often anymore.
I see. Okay, what type of equipment do you have here?
I have a Heathkith HW101. That's the HF transceiver.
Uh-huh.
And I also have a 2-meter rig here. It's a TR7850. And that's right over here.
Okay.
And that's the
How
only...
much power does that run?
The TR7850 2-meter rig on low power is about 10 watts output and 40 watts on high power output.
Okay. What is some of the other items you have there? I see you have a power supply, I guess.
Yeah, that's an Astron 20 amp power supply.
Okay. What is this stuff up above here?
And of course now with the HW101, that's a digital, not a digital, but an analog readout. Up above here is the HB650 digital readout,
Okay.
which is connected with the HW101. So I usually go by the digital readout instead of the analog.
Sure.
And up here now we have the watt meter and SWR meter here, for
Also by Heathkit.
also by Heathkit.
Okay, how do you like the HW101?
That's a good old faithful rig. It's all the old time tubes there, but it really performs real well, and I have a lot of compliments on the audio and the output on it.
Okay. Besides ham radio, it looks like you've done other things in your lifetime. What is this stuff up here?
That's the old railroad telegraph instruments. I was a telegrapher on the railroad for 41 years.
Okay, and you were telling me about this instrument here way back in the early days when you were about 21 years old.
Yeah, that's the one that I operated on in the relay office at Thief River Falls there. I started in there in 1942.
I was trying to get this black and white picture you have up on the wall here of yourself, and it is located off to the left-hand side in that picture, this instrument.
Yes. And the above picture there is when I was 21 years old, and
Okay.
the bottom picture when I was
You were
24
in the
years
service
old.
here?
I was in the military for about
Okay.
3 years.
Okay, during the Second World War? Or?
Second World War, not the Civil War, Gordon.
Okay, what kind of antennas do you have outside?
I have a 50-foot tower out here with a 2-meter beam, and also have 2 dipoles, one for 40 and 75 meters. And then I also have a 4BTV Hustler vertical, which I use on 10, 15, 20, and 40 meters.
Okay, and again, what's your call, QTH, and name?
My call is N0ARZ. The handle here is Russ, and my QTH is Detroit Lakes.
In Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, and my ham call is N0DYV. My Civil Air Patrol call is North Central 43, and I operate more for Civil Air Patrol actually than I do ham radio. We have a VHF radio here. This is a little Regency HR2B. And I use that for VHF on CAP as well as ham. And this is a Kenwood TS120, and I use that on the CAP for the sideband frequencies.
What frequency is that?
And that's the primary frequency for this region is 4507 kilohertz.
What have you got up above that?
Up here?
Yeah.
That
just below that, right there.
This?
Yeah.
That is the antenna tuner. That's an automatic tuner.
Okay, made by who?
That's Kenwood. It's a, what is it, an AT250?
Okay, what else have you got here?
And that's the old Heathkit HW18 over there, and its power supply. I really haven't used that since I got the Kenwood. I just kind of keep it there for standby. It's maybe will get sold one of these days.
Okay, what have you got up above here? I guess that's it.
Up above here is, this is just a receiver here on the local county law frequency. Above that is a scanner, which isn't even mine. I'm just using it. This is a control for the rotor beam. And that's just a radio and tape recorder, and that's about it. What you see here, it's no big thing, just a little.
Very good. What band have you been operating mostly on in the ham band? 2 meters?
2 meters mostly.
Okay.
In fact, I got on your repeater there today and couldn't seem to raise anybody.
I see. Okay. How long have you lived here in Detroit Lakes?
Since 1979, so that's coming up 8 years, isn't it?
Okay, and where did you live before that?
And we lived in Southern California before that.
What part of, what was the name?
Alhambra, California was the name of the town.
Okay, again, would you give me your name, call letters, and QTH?
Name is Dell, N0DYV, Detroit Lakes.
Hi, the name is Bill Miller. The QTH is Ewan, Minnesota. My original call was K80 Mike Lima November. It is now November 0 Golf Charles, Quebec. I've been interested in amateur radio for at least the last 30 years, but thanks to the efforts of local amateurs in our community here, I was able to become an active amateur in 1982.
And what type of a rig do you have there?
The type of rig is a Kenwood Tango Sierra 820. It's helped out with a low-pass filter and an MFJ tuner. The local amateurs have put up a dipole running in the northeast, southwest configuration. My main interest in amateur radio is what we call rag chewing, and also I like to use this little 2-meter handheld Zantac for use to the local repeater, which I'm able to work when the unit is completely charged. Amateur radio is a great hobby, cleanest hobby that there is. Couldn't be a better one. Best enjoyment a fellow can get.
Okay, very good. And again, what was your call, QTH name?
Again, the name is Bill Miller. The call is November 0 Golf Charles, Quebec. The QTH is Ewan, Minnesota.
Okay, my name is Elmer Holm. My call letter is W0GRV, and I live in Ulen, Minnesota. And we've been operating ham radio for 35 years. and I'm usually on 75 now. I used to be on most of the high frequency bands, and running a Kenwood 511S, runs 500 watts PEP, and we got a inverted V for 75 meters. We got a tri-band 10, 15, and 20 for the higher frequencies. And in the past, we were on CW most of the time for many years. And it's kind of hard to get away from CW, but the phone has been a real blessing. And I used to be in the sheet metal business. I lived in Fargo for many years, and we were in the sheet metal, working for the sheet metal companies there until we finally got into our own business. And like I say, we live at Ulen. And our QTH, yeah, that's at Ulen. Our call is W0GRV. And the name is Elmer.
My name is Linda, and my call letters are KA0FSM. I'm in Fargo, North Dakota. And I got my novice license in the fall of 1979. And at that time, I had a lot of fun. 10 meters was open, and I worked an awful lot of states on 10 meters. And when I was a novice, I thought it might be kind of nice to shoot for a goal that I could pursue and make it a little interesting, plus practice with the code, get proficient with it, and go on and get my general license. So I thought, well, why don't I see if I can get all 50 states? I didn't care what band it was on, if it was, you know, on just one band or several. So that's what I started to do, and I got all 50 while I was a novice. Then I upgraded to general in March of 1981, and I've been a general ever since. I do a lot of rag chewing, as we call it, traffic handling, which is handling messages throughout the country, and just in general having a lot of fun.
Okay, what type of equipment do you have here?
Well, I have a Triton 4 by the Tentec company. Would you like me to turn it on and demonstrate it for you?
That'll be quite all right. We'll just take a look at that. That is the one just ahead of you there, I see.
That's
okay.
right. Uh-huh.
And what other items do you have to go along with that?
Well, right here is a frequency counter, and that's very useful with my situation. And then when you turn the dial on the rig, you know, otherwise you just turn the dial and it just would go all over. You wouldn't know where you were.
Sure.
And this talking frequency counter helps a lot. You know what band you're on and what frequency you're on, and if you have a schedule or something at a particular frequency, or you want to check into a net, you can do that.
Okay, what have you got just below that frequency counter? Right down
that's
there.
my antenna tuner.
Okay, what type is that?
That's a MFJ, I think.
Okay.
And you can see these little deals up on top here. They're glued on, and that way I can tell about where they're tuned.
Okay.
And right in the rig, we fixed it so it emits a tone, so that when you put it in the transmit mode, the lower the tone, the better, so I can actually hear when my antennas are being tuned up.
Okay, for tuning purposes.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see, what have you got for 2 meters?
Well, I've got a 7400A here by Kenwood, and you can see the touch tone pad up there and the microphone, and the power supply is right down here. So that's a real nice unit, and the reason I chose that one is because that way you don't have something that scans, or you know right where the frequencies are by just counting the clicks on the dials here. So
Sure.
I can set up like for 7.6, for example.
Okay, talk about your brailler. What does that? How is that compared to a typewriter?
Well, my Braille typewriter has 6 keys, and you use combinations of keys to make the letters. And it's very useful in just about everything, anything from logging to taking messages down, whatever you do in print, really. And I have a piece of paper, you know, right in here. So It's really nice, and you use a combination of keys for all the letters, and there's also, we call them contractions, so that if you don't want to write the whole word out, Braille dots take up an awful lot of room. Then you can write, you know, just shorten the words up, in other words.
Okay, very good. Again, what was your call, QTH, and name?
My name again is Linda, and the call is KA0FSM, Fargo, North Dakota.
Yeah, this is WB0UKH. Name is Cliff, and we're located at Fargo, North Dakota. And,
When did you get started in ham radio, and how did you get started?
well, I guess Archie Waller is the guy that really...
What is this called? Do you remember that anymore?
W0...
OTJ.
OTJ, yeah.
Okay, I know that because he was my cousin.
Yeah, right.
Okay,
Yeah,
so he kind of got you interested.
Yeah, he kind of coaxed me into it.
How did you
know.
happen to get acquainted with him?
Well, through Steve Kurlock.
Okay,
See, they worked at the same place.
sure, at Dakota Electric and Supply
Yeah.
Company.
Yeah.
Okay, now getting back to what type of operating have you been doing?
Well, it's mostly a single sideband or 2 meter.
Sure.
That's about it.
Uh-huh. Been trying to get much DX or anything
No,
like that?
I don't go for DX.
Mostly for local
mostly
contacts?
local stuff.
What type of rigs do you have?
Well, I've got a 520 Kenwood, and well, that's the first one I got. Which I
How
still
long have you had that about?
That's I got that in '76,
Okay.
and then right above it is heat kit amplifier,
Okay.
SB221, and then the monitor scope SB610. Above that is a phone patch.
Okay, and those are all Heathkit.
Yep, 3 of them there.
Okay, what have you got beside that?
And we got a Drake MN2000, which is a antenna tuner. And then, of course, that's a control for the rotor on top there. And
Okay.
then
I see you've been building a few power supplies.
homebrew power supply there.
How many amps does that thing put out?
Well, this one is 30.
30 amps,
That's,
okay.
the other one up there is about 25.
Okay. And did you wind some of the transformers yourself, or how
Well,
did you?
I rewound some of them, yeah.
Okay.
But some of them I bought at surplus.
What type of a mobile setup do you have?
I've got 7400 for 2 meters.
Oh yes,
Same
we
as
have
this-
that right
same-
up,
Same as this one.
right up in here.
And then I have a 430. for
Okay, in the
lower
mobile.
band- for the lower bands.
This is the only 7400 you have.
I have the one in the car.
Oh,
too.
you have another one in the car. Okay. Well, you're well equipped then.
Got 2 of those.
Okay.
I got plenty of mics too.
Sure, I see that. How about your antenna situation? What do you have outside for
Oh
antennas?
golly, I got a lot of junk outside. Well, we'll start with the 2 meter. I have a what they call a isopole, and I have a Ringo Ranger, and which are both vertical. And then I have 2 twin 11s,
Okay.
and then for the other bands I have some dipoles that I made up. It's a single dipole for 3 bands, 40, 80, and 160.
Okay. Have you done anything on teletype or anything like that?
No, I did a little bit, but I got away from that.
Okay. Again, what is your name, call, and QTH?
Well, the name is Cliff. Call is WB0UKH. We're in North Fargo.
My name is Jerry Sluter. I live in Lake Park. My QTH is Lake Park, Minnesota. My call letters are KA0WW. I've been a ham now for about a year. I've been on the air for maybe 3 months. I usually work 40 and 80 meters. A little bit maybe on 10 now that the novice enhancement program has gone into effect. I have just received my 23rd confirmation of towards the Worked All States certificate. I'm kind of excited about that. My rig is a Kenwood TS180. My antenna is a Butternut HF6V. It's a vertical antenna. It's mounted on my roof. I've worked Maine, Alaska, or not Alaska, Hawaii, California, Oregon, Kentucky, Florida. I guess I got interested in ham, maybe 5-6 years ago, and kind of put it off because of the kids.
Okay, very good. And again, what was your call in QTH name?
My QTH is Lake Park, Minnesota. My call is KA0WWU.
Is this chair going to get in your field of vision? This one here?
No, that'll be fine. Okay, let's get started here. And what is your name, call letters, QTH, and so forth?
Okay. My name is John Lunder, and I live at Detroit Lakes, or just outside of Detroit Lakes. My call is N0FGO. This is my old call, which I used to have, K0CXJ.
How long have you been a ham operator?
And I guess, well, let's see, it's 1987. It must be about 30 years, something.
About 30 years?
Yeah,
but where did you start operating?
In Moorhead, Minnesota.
In Moorhead, you grew up there?
Yeah, when I was in high school.
Okay, who got you started in ham radio?
I think I did.
You did?
Yeah, I didn't know anybody.
Okay. Were you a novice back then?
Yeah, I was a novice back then. But,
and what bands have you been operating and that type of thing?
Mostly the high frequencies, 10 meters, 6 meters, and currently we're looking at 440 megahertz television.
You've been more an more a builder than an
operator. Yeah.
And what are some of the things you've built?
Well, this is a small sideband transmitter that covers 14 to 15 megahertz. It's used for 6 meters and 2 meters single sideband. And this is a low frequency transceiver, 80 through 10. And this is a solid state receiver, which you see right here. Most of this equipment was built quite a few years ago, and then right back of me here is a 3-1000 linear amplifier. And
how much power do you run with that?
Well, that runs the full legal limit.
I see.
So.
Okay.
But this one is only for 10 meters and 6 meters. I don't use that on the low frequencies. I have another amplifier which is out of sight here under a table, which covers 80 through 10, but I haven't been on the low frequencies much lately.
Okay, describe some of your other equipment. You've got something else there.
Well, this is a power supply. This is a switching box for the remote antenna switch. My antenna is my tower is 200 and some feet from the house, so I use one cable to go out there, and then this switch is a relay at the tower to select whatever antenna I want. And this is the power output from the amplifier, and this is the power output from the exciter over here. And this little gadget down here is kind of a old Heathkit, kind of a spectrum analyzer type piece of equipment here right on the end. Let you sit on the band and you can get a kind of a picture of what the band looks like. You can see signals up and down the band, 25 to 50 kilohertz, which is kind of handy.
Okay, what have you got over on the other side of the table here for test equipment?
Oh, well, let's see. If we start here at the beginning here, it's an old oscilloscope, bird watt meter, an AC voltmeter, multimeter here, a little power supply on the top, an audio oscillator, and an RF signal generator that covers high frequencies. And then there's way over in the corner there, that little gray box is a Heathkit signal generator. And this is another power supply and another oscillator, and that about covers the.
And I see the heart of some of this is a bird watt meter, huh?
Yeah, it's really the only watt meter that I trust at 400 megahertz.
Sure.
And it also has the advantage of being able to get very low powered elements. What I'm working on there now is amplifiers that put out about 0.2 of a watt.
On what band?
On 439.
What do you intend to use it for?
For television. It's for amateur television. It'll start out there. There's several pieces of equipment here. Maybe we can sort of show them in some sort of order here. Here's a local oscillator chain and a mixer. And what this does is provide a signal to mix with the channel 3 television signal. And out this port will come very low level 400 megahertz, and that'll go through 2 of those amplifiers to build the signal up to a signal level where where at least you can measure the power. It's pretty low level running through these stages.
Okay. You might describe what you have for antenna systems outside.
Well, right now I have a 6-element 10-meter beam at 60 feet. It's on an old windmill tower. And I have a dipole that's 80 through 10. And there's a, what is it, a 13-element Yagi for 430. It's cut for 439 megahertz for television.
Okay, you're quite active on the 10-meter band?
Yeah. I monitor 28.6 just about constantly in the evenings. And it's quite interesting from this area because we're in a unique area here. We're right on the edge of the auroral zone, and between 9 o'clock in the evening when we have a solar flare and 2-3 o'clock in the morning we can work all over the polar regions of northern Canada, Alaska, and even occasionally into Japan. So it might not interest everybody, but it's kind of a little niche that's interesting.
Okay, again, what was your call, QTH, and handle?
My call is N0FGO. My name is John, and I live 7 miles east of Detroit Lake.
Okay, Gino.
Well, hello there, Gordon. I'm surprised you stopped by. You're lucky to catch me home. For the people who are going to view this thing, I'm Gino, K0RJ, south of Detroit Lakes, about 3 miles or so, and my old call when I first moved back, W0 New York Yank, originally licensed out of Seattle as K7UZV. And my interests in radio right now are not very much. Basically some VHF 2 meters, talk with PQW and Clayton up at Uland, the good mayor. And that's about the only 2 that I converse with. My primary low band experience is all single sideband, 90%. DX work. Very seldom ever am found rag chewing on the stateside frequencies.
You have done a lot of DX work in your time. You've got, I'm sure, a lot of countries.
Well, confirmed, I'm up around 260, 270 in that area, but still a long ways to go. You know, there's what, 312, 314, I think. But I put them all away for now and have to wait till I retire, I think, before I start in with that again.
Okay, what kind of equipment do you have here?
Well, this is rice box equipment, some of it. The old Yaesu 901DM is the main transceiver, and the kicker, as they say on 11 meters, the old Henry 3K over on the back side of me. If you can see that, I probably slide over a little ways. And a little Henry 2K3 over here on the right. Backup. Everybody's got a backup, you know. So.
Okay, I see.
Other than that, the Kenwood VHF stuff and some old Hal Riddy equipment. I used to do quite a bit of radio teletype. I've got my Apple computer interfaced at the present time. Now I can run either CW or radio teletype through the Apple. You got to be a typist. I can hunt and peck a little bit, but it's interesting, something to do when it's 40 below and wintertime, you know, when you don't want to go outside and you don't want to go out to the fish house, one thing another. So pretty much I think that's about it radio-wise. Started back in about 1962 originally, I believe, and
My main CW was with Uncle Sam back in the early 50s when I was over in Europe as a CW operator. And so it was pretty easy to get my ham radio license once I started boning up on the theory a little bit.
You've got some interesting towers and antennas out here. You might describe some of them.
Well, they come in bits and pieces. Always buy a few feet here and there when you go to a rummage sale and get 30, 40, 50 feet, and you get the same kind, and you just take the top section off and put in another 30, 40 feet, and pretty soon one of them ended up to be about 150 feet, and the other one's about 120 or something like that. They're all low band antennas on them.
You also have a 2-meter. Do you have twin 11s up there yet?
Well, yeah, there's twin 11s, and there's a Cushcraft 20 element array, and at one time I was playing around with a 2-meter repeater. It's down in the closet at the present time, but it was something to play around with.
Okay, again, I think we'll go out and take a look at your antennas, but again, give your call, QTH, and handle.
Okay, for the QSB that was on the band, it's Gino, K0RJ, south of Detroit Lakes, about 3 miles. That's about winds it up, I guess, for inside. If you want to go outside, we'll take a walk.
You can kind of describe what we're looking at here. We're looking at one of your towers.
Okay, we're at K0RJ, 3 miles south of Detroit Lakes. This is a 150-foot tower.
Oh, we're on the 80-foot at the moment, I believe.
No, about 80. No, this one's 150.
Okay, I'm looking at this one.
Okay, that's a 120-footer over there.
Oh, that's 120.
That's got the high-gain Thunderbird TH6 DX on it.
Okay, you used to have an 80 there, didn't you? And you added to it?
Years ago, it probably was at one time.
Okay, that's where I got that idea.
Yeah.
Now I'm over on the 150-footer.
Okay.
What have you got up? Starting out, you've got must be a TV antenna.
Channel 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, VHR, you know.
Collinear?
That's a 27 or 20 element collinear Cushcraft with an upside down vertical there for when I was playing around with the VHF repeater.
Okay, we'll go on up to the top here.
Yeah, it's a twin 11s beamed in on Fargo to try to get to the metropolitan area around this country.
Okay.
And it's got a vertical phased with it for 2-meter operation. And
what kind of a beam way up at the top there?
That's the high gain monobander 4-element.
Okay.
Hello, this is Mel Eidsmo. The home QTH is Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. My call is N0HIE. And I've been a novice, got my novice in June of '85 and general in December of '85. I got it just in time so that when we went to Florida for the winter I could talk to the boys back home here. I got interested in ham in February of '85 when I was with, so we visited some friends of ours, KA0KWM in Texas. And we were spending about 9 days with them, and Vern would tune in various parts of the country while I was watching, and he also tuned in a yacht out on the out in the Gulf of Mexico there, and it had a very interesting conversation there, and I was very much intrigued by it. So Vern took out the QT or the what's that? The ham magazine anyway, and QST was the one. And he saw this Yaesu FT101ZD in there, and he says, here's a buy. So I called the fellow and had him send it up, and on the way back in our motorhome I had my wife do the driving and I did the studying. So although that table is kind of shaky when you're driving, I try to do a little bit of writing and recording of some of my notes as I was studying. But we did fairly well with that, and when I got home I still had about 6 months before I retired. So I poured the gas to studying and really enjoy ham radio. Only thing is, I wish I would have started about 30 years ago, so I could have had that much more enjoyment. I got this Yaesu FT101ZD from the gentleman in Ormond Beach, Florida. And when we were in Florida a year ago, I stopped in there, called him, and he said, come on over for coffee. So we went over for coffee, and I ended up buying his linear, this Clipperton L linear here. And he had a Kenwood 130 and several other items that I bought from him there at that time.
What do you use for 2 meters up there?
For my 2 meter, I have a Yaesu FT270RH 45 watt that I got from Burkhart's when he was at Abercrombie about a little over a year ago, year and a half ago. And also I got a rotor, this high gain rotor, that has been real good, especially using 2 meters to talk to our friends at Bemidji. Turn it up there and we can talk simplex back and forth normally to Bemidji. And
quite a power supply there, I see.
Yes, the power supply is a GSC 20 amp, which I use to run my 2 meter here. And it's 20 amps, so I have plenty to spare there. I've been thinking of using it on if I should have another HF rig. Although,
what type of an antenna system do you have outside?
For my antenna, I've got a 64-foot tower that Gordy helped me put up there. And on top of that, I've got an Explorer 14 tri-bander. And I've got a 2 meter, what the heck was that now? I've even forgotten what it was. It's about a 15 element 2 meter that I've got up on top of there. With the also on top of that, the very top, I've got a 2 meter vertical that I use. But
okay, again, what is your QTH call letter?
QTH is Detroit Lakes, Minnesota, Mel Eidsmoe, and the call letters are N0HIE. When they see me, they say hi.
Well, this is W0EMZ. I'm located in Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. My name is Carl. I guess everybody knows me. I don't know, I guess I got my ticket back in the real early 50s. And I used to operate a lot of CW, but I don't use that much anymore. Guess I'm just getting old and lazy. So,
what type of rigs do you have right now?
Oh, gosh, I've got an old, what the heck is it, a Kenwood TS820? I don't even know what it is. But it works good, and I use it both on phone. I even work a little bit of CW once in a while yet. So we do a lot of listening, I guess, more than we do talking. Reporting in the Weak Sisters Net quite regular. And I actually talked to old Tommy over in Hawaii here the other day. So that was kind of fun once again.
What are you using on 2 meters?
Oh, I got here's my 2 meter rig back here, an old Midland model 13510, and it seems to work pretty good. It runs up to 25 watts, I guess, and I hardly ever operated that and never work anything except on the repeater. So I don't know, that's about enough chatter out of me.
So what kind of antennas are you using?
Oh, I just use a doublet on the HF frequencies, a 75 meter doublet. Got a tuner on the rig so I can operate 20 there. And for 2 meters, I got an old J-pole antenna right now. Had a 20 element beam, but that was too big up there, so I took it down. It worked too good. So that's about all I know. This is W0EMZ, and I'll sign off.
Picture that Carl had of a group of ham operators that gathered at his house back in the 50s. Up in the left-hand portion of the picture is a Brian Harris, and next there's a Merton Traeger. The next one over is Ernest Olson, W0UIV, and in the foreground is that's Carl sitting there, that's W0EMZ, and in the foreground is Don Schroeder, W0QWE, and then there was a Dale Klomstead, and finally off to the right-hand side was John Mahoney. We'll get a little closer shot of John Mahoney, Klomstead, Schroeder, Carl, EMZ, UIV, Merton Traeger, and Brian Harris.
My QTH is Audubon, Minnesota. Call letters are N0FFT. My rig is a TS-130, and my antenna for HF is Cushcraft 4-element beam with a 40-meter add-on, and I also have a 215 WB Cushcraft 15-element beam for my 2-meter rig.
What are you using for 2 meters out here?
I'm using 2 meters. Using is right now is a FT23R Yaesu. It has from 140 megahertz to 160 megahertz
range.
And I also have a 7950 Kenwood in my car that I use hook up to my beam with an extension cord that I made up. And I've been at a ham since January of 1979. And the way I got into it, I got acquainted with a police lieutenant down in Jordan, Minnesota, and saw his equipment, and he started teaching me the code. And I bought me some Heathkit equipment to start with. And that's about it that I can think of right now.
Okay, again, what is your...
My call is N0FFT. I'm a technician. And
QTH?
My QTH is Audubon, Minnesota.
And your handle?
And Herb.
Okay, thank you, Herb.
There I am. Don Homey, KA0WWV here. I got my amateur license novice last June, and took a while to get operating because I didn't have a rig then or a antenna system. We finally picked up an old used Drake TR4, and it's doing a pretty good job for us here. We operate primarily CW, in fact exclusively CW on 40 meters, because that's what we have up there now, a dipole 40 meters. And I've got 5-bander up there too, but it isn't tuned in, so we don't use that yet. I'm usually trying and get a couple of contacts most of the time in the late afternoon if is the time I'm usually on the air, and I've been really working at this really since the fall when we've got on the air.
And again, what was your QTH call?
QTH is Lake Park, Minnesota, and KA0WWV.
And your name?
Don Homey.
Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Oh, I'm Barbara Dahl, and live in Moorhead. The call letters are WA0KSU.
And what type of hamming are you doing now?
Just a handheld 2 meters.
Okay, in the past, what did you operate, and what bands and so forth?
Oh, we operated all the bands, 15, 10, 75, 40, and 80.
Uh-huh.
And
what type of a rig did you have back then?
we had a helicopter.
Okay. What type of an antenna system did you folks have?
You'll have to tell them what that is.
Okay, we'll ask Mac that in just a minute.
I don't really remember, Barb.
Okay. What year did you get on operating approximately?
I got my license in '64.
Okay. Okay, let's go over to your husband now and give me your handle, QTH, and call letters, if you would.
Oh, my name is Mac Dahl. My handle is Mac, and my QTH is Moorhead, Minnesota. Call letters WA0 Frank Ida Nancy.
Okay, and you were living some other place before you moved here to Moorhead when was that you moved here?
This fall?
This fall, wasn't it?
Yeah, we moved here on October 30th, 1986. 86, yeah, that's right. Time goes so fast, Gordy, you can't keep track of it.
Right.
And we moved here from Detroit Lakes, Minnesota. I retired from the practice of dentistry in 1975, June 1st, 1975. And we moved to Detroit Lakes and then back here, like I said.
Okay, very good. And again, give me your name and call letters.
Well, my name is Mac Dahl, and my call letters are WA0FIN.
Okay, and you?
Barb Dahl, WA0KSU.
Okay, give me your name, QTH, and handle, or call letter.
My name is Lorraine Swenson. QTH here is Hitterdal, Minnesota. I have the ham shack down the basement at the present time. Hope to move it upstairs in the near future. We got a spare bedroom now, so hopefully I'll get it up there. Maybe I'll get things shaped up here, who knows. The call letters here are WA0GTM, and we got to be a novice about in 1964. Worked a little CW at the time, and upgraded, so I got my general license, and then now I have an advanced license.
Now you have some sons who are also ham
Yes,
operators. What
yeah.
are their calls and their names? Where are they located?
I have two sons who are also hams. One is works at Boulder, Colorado, WA0GTM, or GTR, and my other son is KA0FWI at Jamestown. And when I first started, we did some CW work, then gradually got on phone, and I have a Kenwood TS520 SE, which I use quite a bit now. I like to work CW through it. Then I have a Swan 700 CX that I use mainly for working my son in Colorado, and also the one at Jamestown. To start with, we had some Heathkit equipment, and we had a rock-bound one to start with, so we had to do a lot of hunting to find somebody to work that way, of course.
What type of a keyer do you have down below here?
Oh, I've got kind of a electronic keyer here, which I really like. It's kind of 2 units put together here that I got on sale. I'm always looking for bargains, so I found a keyer that was they were discontinuing, so I got a pretty good buy on that. I don't even know the name of the thing. I can't read it.
Well, anyway, it works good.
It works good anyhow. It works real good. Then they got a paddle, iambic paddle for it, and I bolted the two together, and they work real good anyhow. So I guess that's the score on that. I have a auto patch that works real well. I guess I haven't had the opportunity to use it very often, but at least it does work. That is homebrew. Schematic was in one of the electronic magazines that I built up, and it works real well. My antenna is just an inverted V up, not too high, about 25 feet, I suppose. I hope to get another tower in the near future, and I also have a beam that up, but I haven't used that a great deal.
What type of a beam is that?
I don't remember what type of a beam that is even. I got it in the literature here someplace.
But that too works good.
Yeah, that works. It works. It works.
Okay, again, what is your QTH call?
Hitterdal. The QTH is Hitterdal, Minnesota, and the call letters is WA0 GTM.
And your name?
Lorraine Swenson.
QTH call.
Okay, I'm Mike Olson, KI0E, and I live in North Fargo.
Okay.
You can, if you dare get too close to the place with all the antennas that are starting to fall down now, you'll know where it is when you get there.
What types of antennas do you have?
Well, the main one is a spider, big spider quad. It's been up about...
what bands is that on?
It actually works on 4 bands. I've got a 2-meter quad in the middle of it.
I see.
I think it's about a 5-element or 6-element. Then we've got 10, 15, and 20 on the outside.
I see.
I used to have a really good 40-meter loop up there, and that come down. So I got to do a little work this spring.
Again, what is your call, QTH?
Okay, Mike Olson,
and name.
KI0E, Kilowatt India 0 Echo in North Fargo.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Son, live up on North Fargo.
Okay, you have a place out by Little McDonald, don't you?
Little McDonald, yeah. I got a lake cottage down there, and I work both HF and 2 meters from the lake place. And I work 2 meters at HF from the home place, north side of Fargo.
What type of equipment do you have down there?
I've got a diapole, bazooka type diapole for the HF, and I got a Ringo Ranger for 2 meters.
I see. How about in town here? What do you have here?
I got a 3-element beam up for 10, 15, and 20, and got an all-trap dipole for the rest of the HF frequencies, and a Ringo Ranger for the 2 meters.
Sure. Okay, you have one other member in your family who's a ham operator. What's the name and so forth?
My wife is a ham radio operator. It's Donna, WB0VBB, and my oldest son is also a ham radio operator. He's WB0PKR.
Where's he at?
Grand Island, Nebraska.
Okay, he works for the FCC, doesn't he?
That's correct.
Still there?
Still there.
Okay. Okay, very good. Do you do any mobiling?
I do mobile with a car. I do it on 2 meters. I do the mobile on there.
Sure, sure. How long have you been into ham radio? How did you get interested?
Well, my son's got a job at FCC, and he had to be a ham radio operator to hold his job, and he talked me into it, so we can talk back and forth. We have a schedule of once a week we talk to each other.
Oh, yes. Do you operate much low frequency at all, or are you mostly on 2 meters?
Mostly on HF. Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. Where are you living?
I live at 1522 3rd Street North in North Side Fargo here.
Okay. Again, what is your QTH name and
QTH, Fargo, North Dakota, WB0BBC, and Clayton Hookinson.
Okay, let's get a little recording of you and give me your call, QTH, and name.
Okay. Well, my call is W0ZQJ, and my name is Ken Covey, and I'm in Moorhead, Minnesota, Gordy.
Okay. And you're a medical doctor. Where did you start in your practice?
Well, I started out in Monona, Minnesota, in family practice, and was there for 11 years. went back to the Mayo Clinic for 3 years, and then was in Crookston for 6 years, and Moorhead for the last 20.
I
And
see.
I retired about 3 months ago.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
You're retired now.
Yeah.
Very good. When did you start in ham radio?
Oh, that's before anybody was born around here, I think. I started in 1937. That was before Jack was born.
That was after they changed from W9 to
Yeah,
W0.
I was a W9.
You were W9 also.
originally, and W9 is EQJ, and I think that changed about after World War II, if I'm not mistaken.
I see.
But anyway, I started when I was a senior in high school.
Sure, sure. What type of rigs did you use back in those days?
Well, whatever I could find in the telephone company junk pile.
I see.
I made some of my own condensers and used batteries for power, and but actually all homebrew except for the receiver, which my folks had an all-wave receiver that I used as a ham band receiver.
Operated a lot of 160 back then?
It was 160.
Sure.
Totally.
Sure. Okay, then what type of equipment are you using nowadays?
Oh, right now I've got a Yaesu Japanese type rig like everybody else does for HF. I have a Kenwood 700S for a 2-meter rig at home, and I got a 2-meter rig in the car and a 2-meter handheld.
Sure. Do you operate any mobile from your bicycle? I know you do a lot of that.
Well, I take the handheld along, which is sort of reassuring because if something happens, I can
Why, of course.
use
Sure.
it, but otherwise not.
Are you on the low frequencies very much?
Right now,
like 75 or
mostly net operation on 75.
I see. What net?
Pico and Minnesota section phone net.
Sure, sure. And you say you retired about 3 months ago,
3 months ago, right.
Sure. Well, how are you enjoying your retirement?
Oh, it's great. I recommend it for everybody.
Do you have a lake cottage or anything like that, or
No.
You don't? Okay. Do a lot of golfing, maybe?
No, ham radio and gardening are my hobbies.
Very good.
And I live on the Red River, so I got a big backyard, plenty of room to do that.
Sure. Okay, again, what is your QTH call and name?
Okay, Ken Covey, W0ZQJ, Moorhead, Minnesota.
Thank
you. My name is Ernest Olson.
And where do you live right now?
1916, 6th Avenue North in Moorhead.
Sure. What did you get into with ham radio?
In the spring of 1949.
I see. And what got you interested in electronics in the first place?
Well, I was a kid. I just fell into it. I was interested in that maybe when I was 13 or less.
I see. What was your first rig? What did you build back then?
There's one thing. I started to build something that was in a mechanics magazine, and all I could find to build it on was that breadboard with the copper tubing, but my guardian, he wouldn't buy any of the rest of the stuff.
Oh, I see.
That was a push-pull 40-meter transmitter using number 10s.
Sure.
But I just read about it, that was all.
Sure, okay.
But then I had a homemade transmitter when I started, and I went on 160 with it.
I remember hearing you on 160 back in the early 50s.
I was on just before the band opened. I didn't go on the band, but I had it, you know.
You always had the same call letters?
Yeah, same call letters.
Okay. And you worked for some radio and television stations. Which
Just
particular ones were they?
Just KG2E when Roger Dell owned it. Also his brother Harold, Fergus Falls.
Okay, and then you went to what station?
I went to WDAY and I worked as transmitter engineer.
So you worked out at the media?
Right, mostly.
Okay. What kind of ham radio operating have you been doing lately?
Well, I haven't done anything for quite a while. I have a 2-meter rig, but I haven't got hooked up.
Sure. Well, I know you've always been quite a technician, maybe more than an operator, haven't you?
Well, I
Building
like to do one thing or another, you know, if I can, but I'm getting now, so I'm not able to.
Uh-huh. Well, let's take a look at some of your test equipment and maybe your rig right now.
And then I want to mention, I got the advanced class of license.
Very good.
I got that from the FCC. They had operator, or FCC, there were a couple girls that worked for the FCC. They were in the federal building in Fargo.
I see. Okay. You lived at Audubon, didn't you?
Yes, I started there.
And then you went to Detroit Lakes,
Right.
worked in radio, TV,
Yeah,
repair.
but there's quite a problem having something on the air there because they didn't have a location for antenna.
Sure, and then you moved to Moorhead after leaving Fergus Falls.
Yeah.
Right now, let's take a look at your ham shack. What have you got here for the low frequencies?
KWM2, Collins.
Okay.
And then up above there, that's a Johnson matchbox.
Okay, you've got that right up in this area
And
here.
that's, then I have a Heathkit S, it's a linear amplifier, but I don't have that in here right now. I'm
Okay.
kind of in the process of changing on things and cleaning up.
Okay, what is this ham keyer? You operate some CW? Or
Well,
you
I
did?
haven't, and I had kind of a light stroke before Christmas, and then I couldn't write or dial the phone or do anything.
Okay, let's take a look at your test equipment here. Bench and test equipment. Down at the bottom here you've got, looks like a transistor checker.
Yes, Heathkit.
Okay, very good. Up above here, what have you got?
The up above higher, that's the frequency counter made by Heathkit.
Very good. And below that?
Well, there you see signal core sweep generator.
Okay, and on over in the middle?
That's a bridge made by signal core.
Okay.
And then there's a Jackson signal generator. And then
Okay.
to the right of that, that's a Heathkit bridge that's I used to check capacitors.
Okay, very good. Your workbench, and again, give me your QTH name and call letters.
Ernest Olson, W0UIV, and
You're living in Moorhead.
right.
Gordy Feevig here tonight, and you're visiting with the home QTH of Ray Hubbard KA0OBY in North Fargo. And I guess we'd like to take this opportunity to welcome everybody to the Hamfest and remind everybody of the Hamfest coming up May 9th over at the Ramada Inn. And we'll have VE testing and swap tables and a Skywarn banquet at 6:30 that night. So we certainly would we'd be happy to see anybody come to this session.
Okay, that's very good. What we'll do on this tape, we'll just go into talking about what type of a system you have here, the rig, and we'll do that part on the other tape. This is fine.
You want that on
this
the other
will
tape?
Be fine.
Okay.
No, this is fine because they're watching this at the Hamfest right at this moment.
Okay, very good.
Okay, now when did you get started in ham radio?
We got started in 1982, and I tell my wife that it only took me 50 years to get a general ticket because I was really interested in amateur radio as about an 8-year-old kid. And when I did get the license, I was 58. So we got a late start in amateur radio, and we started with Mike Olson in one of his classes down at Agassiz.
Were you a novice or anything?
No.
You went right in?
Started out just from ground zero.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
No previous formal education in electronics or anything. And we certainly enjoyed the class with Mike. It was really a good one. And we started right out. And the rig we're looking at over here is a Yaesu FT101EE. And it's actually my first rig. I didn't have any as a youngster. However, I did have a piece of shortwave equipment. I can't even tell you what the name of it was. And we used to listen to a lot of the amateurs when I was 8 and 10 years old.
In connection with that, you also have a digital display for it?
Yes, we've got a digital display over here, and we've got a small MFJ tuner here. And we do have a 30-foot tower out in the backyard with a 3-element T33 Mosley on the top. And we've really had a lot of fun working with the antenna. The antenna is the name of the game in this business, and it certainly does help. We don't have any linears or anything. We operate strictly barefoot. But amateur radio has just been a marvelous hobby for me. I've really enjoyed it. It's something, like I said before, I've wanted to do all my life, and now that I'm coming up on retirement, I'm really looking forward to spending more and more time with it. And we have managed to pick up the WAS, and we've got a few cards hanging on the wall back there. Alaska was the hardest one to get a hold of, but we finally were able to work them. It was quite interesting. Once we got the Mosley up on the tower in the backyard, the first 2 stations I worked were Alaska, and I really had to work hard to get them off of a dipole antenna.
You're the president now of the amateur club in Fargo here?
Yes, we were elected president this last year, and we're looking forward to a good year, I hope.
Okay, again, what is your name, QTH, and call letters?
The name is Ray Hubbard. QTH is Fargo, North Dakota, North Fargo. Call is KA0OBY.
Something Road. It was a chicken restaurant. Chicken Delight Road, or whatever they call it. But it was a man killer. You don't hear of accidents too often now, but God, way back 20 years ago, and it used to be bumper to bumper traffic.
And it was totally self-contained.
Oh, he does that too. He looked through his eyepiece there and played back.
It's all covered with water, right?
Oh, this one didn't have that big bag as I had. We were surprised how small it was.
Yeah. That one that's completely self-contained, that's kind of smaller.
Cabin bag.
Yes. Ground soil or groundwater or whatever. There's a time.
And then there was a lot of car damage this year too.
Yeah.
Some of them. Yeah, they really pushed over.
Yeah.
Dogs.
Yeah. Well, they showed that on Cormorant on the news the other night. There was some that was.
Yeah, there is a big incline.
You have to take off your shoes and barbecue.
Wear your waders.
Yeah, wear your waders. Because you have in that investment.
Santa Claus.
Okay, John, how tall is this tower?
About 70 feet.
About 70 feet, okay. And what was it used for?
It used to be an old radio station.
Okay, I think it was what is it? KOTE in Fergus Falls. KGDE?
I heard a 3-letter call.
What's that?
I heard a 3-letter call for it at one time.
Was it right?
I don't know what it was, if that was true or not.
Okay. January 1988, and you might tell me who you are, how long you've been a ham, where you live, and just ramble on.
Okay, first of all, Gordon, nice to see you again after a long, long time.
Uh-huh.
And
let's see. My name is Bob Carlson. My call is W0KCP. And I received my license in 1937 at the young age of 13. Used to be W9KCP. And
how did you become interested in ham radio?
My father was W0FXB Elmer, and he became licensed in 1928. And I was the only boy in the family, and of course I watched my dad in the early years and got very interested in ham radio at an early age.
Sure. And what bands did your dad operate, mostly?
My father worked 160 back in the early 30s. Mainly 160. We used 160, or he used 160 up here those years for more or less communication between Oak Island, the island sections.
I'm looking for my microphone here. Where did that fall?
Oh,
it's just below you. That's fine. Just pick it up there and hold it.
Yeah, okay, Gloria. Sorry about that.
That's fine.
And Dad started a schedule with Oak Island in 1928 from Roosevelt, Minnesota. He was on every day at 12 o'clock and taking their orders and giving them the news and Western Unions, etc., that come into War Road and Roosevelt.
Sure.
And my dad had quite a history behind him in ham radio. He was written up in Life magazine for saving lives, and I remember one time a wife of a ham, W0ZPH, Bill Lambie's brother, when she was a little girl, become ill with a ruptured appendix out in Northwest Angle. And no airplanes available other than the Navy in Duluth, so they used ham radio from Oak Island to Warroad, told that of the circumstances, and they had no way of getting this girl in, so they got a plane out of Duluth, Navy plane, and they flew out there and brought her into Warroad just in the nick of time.
I see.
And that was Leonard Lambie's wife.
I see. Was your dad a pilot?
Yes, I taught my dad to fly and I sold him out.
Oh, is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
The biggest thrill of my life.
Did you, when did you get started in flying?
Right after World War II, when I got out of the Navy, 1946. Yes, I went through the GI Bill. 1946. So.
What kind of airplanes did you fly?
Oh, let's see. I flew World War II stuff, and then Stearmans, Ryans, Fairchilds.
Sure.
And then my first airplane was a Stinson 150, and then I ended up with Cessnas. And
sure.
My dad and I owned a 148 when we both quit flying.
Oh, yes.
Back in the 60s.
What year did your dad die?
My father died in 1972.
Okay, I remember him very well from 160.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, now tell me, what have you been operating on ham radio? What bands?
Well, when I first started out, of course, we worked 40 meter CW for a number of years, and then we were put off the air when we were attacked by Pearl Harbor, December 7th, 1941, and then after World War II, I was inactive for a number of years. I was telegraph operator in West Virginia, and
for who?
The Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad.
Okay.
And I moved back to Warroad, bought my father's business out in 1951, and then become active again in ham radio.
And what type of business was that?
Appliance, radio, and so forth. Then we, of course, at that time we went into television and sporting goods and so forth.
And that's what you're doing now? Pretty much the same business?
No, it's sporting goods now. We got out of the TV game.
Yeah, right. Okay, tell me about your equipment here. What are you using? What bands and so forth?
Well,
I will just go over some of it. What have you got sitting behind you there?
Well, that's a rig that...
Does that run the legal limit or something like everybody else says?
Yes, that run the legal limit. You use a pair of 4-400s, and it is Class C operation when I got it. It's practically a brand new transmitter. I picked up from the U.S. Border Patrol in Grand Forks.
I see.
And it's quite a transmitter.
It sure looks like
now, Dick, W0UDP, helped me get that thing off, working on 160 through 10. And it's a very fine transmitter. I use a HT37 to drive it.
Looks like quite a transmitter.
Made by CCA out there in, where is it, New Jersey.
Huh. Okay, what have you got over in front of you here?
Where, right here?
Well, I see you've got a linear down below there by Heathkit.
Okay, that's my first linear, an SP220.
And up above that?
Arlene built that up, and then we have ICOM 211, single sideband. We work 2 meter single sideband.
Way up at the top, what have you got up there?
Well, that's Dr. Jack. W0's MOK G50, 6 meter rig, believe it or not.
6 meter rig. Okay, coming on over here, you've got some Collins right in front of you.
Then we have a KWM2 driving a L1 linear. And then we have a 32S1 75S2 receiver, Collins, driving a SP220.
Up above there, I see some type of a rig. What is that?
Then we have a
this one right here. What's that?
Oh, that's this one here. Oh, that's an old Drake receiver. Roy Hill's going to get that.
Oh, strictly a receiver, huh?
And then sitting left to that is there's a DTR 2000L linear using 8877 in the final. That's driven by a 520 Sugar Kenwood.
Sure. And I see over here you've got some kind of a Collins.
Well, that's an old 75A4 receiver, Dr. Jack's old receiver, an HD37. Mm-hmm. And then we have a MLA 2500 linear.
Okay.
There.
Very good.
All old equipment, but it seems to work good.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you've got a lot of antique tubes I see over in the corner here, and then.
Yes, we have tubes going back.
I'm not able to move around here very well.
Matter of fact, my first tube, Gordy, that I used.
The microphone, I guess, won't reach.
No, just one moment here. Here's a quite a unique tube here.
Okay, just hold it right there.
Yeah, this is the first transmitter. Here's my QSL card, Gordy. I found one of them in the box.
I see.
W9 King Charlie Peter, and
sure.
My first transmitter was a 47 crystal oscillator driving this 210 tube in 1937.
Oh, yes.
15 watts. The receiver stands behind you there, an old SX-11 helicopters. My father's first communication receiver.
Oh, yes.
That he bought in 1937.
Okay.
But that was a great tube those years, an old 210.
Saying what about that receiver?
Oh, this is my father's first communication receiver. Before that, we just used old Phil Kozer Monkey Ward receivers that tuned to the 106 meter band.
That's a Skyrider.
This is an SX-11 Skyrider made by Hallicrafters in 1937. And if I remember correctly, Dad paid a little bit over $100 for it, brand new those years.
Okay.
But it still works fine, and quite a receiver in its day, Gordy.
Okay.
And this, of course, is just an old SX-100 Hallicrafters.
And over here, I see you have some teletype equipment.
That's an
Have
old.
you been operating any teletype? Whoops, your microphone fell down.
Not legally, Gordy. No.
There's the microphone down.
Yeah, that's an old. What is that? A 29, I think.
I'm not sure. You haven't operated any teletype lately.
No.
Okay. I tell you what. You have somebody else in your family who's a ham operator as well.
Oh yes, my wife Arlene.
Uh-huh. Let me get her on the tape here a little
Sure.
bit too.
Her call.
Still January 18th, 19... About yourself, your name, where
about
you
me.
live,
Oh,
and all those things.
Well, I'm Arlene Carlson.
Okay.
W0KCP's wife, XYL,
But then you
whatever.
also have a call letter, don't you?
Oh yes, K0AUG.
Right.
Awful ugly girl, or
I see.
angel under glass.
Okay. And how long have you been a ham operator?
Okay, I got my license in, let's see, I was married in 1954, and I became a ham in 1955.
Was that a part in your marriage license or vows, or?
My last name was Hams.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, H-A-M-S.
That's right,
yeah.
I remember that.
So, I had to
Okay.
become a ham.
So, what bands do you usually operate?
Not too many anymore. I used to work them all, 20, 10, 15,
Uh-huh.
75.
Sure.
But it was easier when we had the radio room in the house than it is out
I
here.
suppose, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little more convenient.
Oh,
it
yeah.
wasn't out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
This isn't that much out of the
Oh,
way,
no.
but it's just
No.
that it's not right nearby. It's right outside the house in
when,
a
when
way.
Bob had the main station out in the store, that's
Sure.
before he moved in the house.
Sure.
Okay, I had one little radio in the bedroom, so that was mine. And then he moved everything out here, so now I don't have one I can call mine, so
Okay.
I let him use. I do
remember
more
that.
on 2 meters than anything else.
You're on 2 meters a bit
Yeah.
now.
Oh,
What
yeah.
bands?
Oh,
Or what frequencies, I
oh,
should say, do you get on certain repeaters besides this local one?
mainly this one now.
How about
ours
Thief
here.
River Falls? Do you get into Thief River?
We did, but I don't think they're operating right now.
I see.
And then 5.2, we always monitor 5.2 on the scanner, so anybody that comes through that doesn't know we have a repeater,
Sure.
well,
How about the Bemidji repeater? Do you folks operate that?
we have, I don't think we've used it. I haven't, I don't know if Bob has or not.
Uh-huh.
But
Okay, how about your children? Any of them, did any of them become interested in ham radio?
no, at one time Troy thought he might, and he took the code and was going to
Sure.
learn it and everything, but
Right. They have to be interested on their own. You can't push
none of the
anybody.
three, no.
Okay, what's your favorite rig around here? You've got so many to
My
choose
rig,
from.
my favorite rig, the mobile and the pickup.
Oh, I see. 2 liters.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
No, I think I like the Kenwood,
Uh-huh. Which one is that?
the 520S.
That's the 520S.
Yeah.
And usually 20 meters?
No, I think I prefer 75 because I know all the people I'm talking to on there.
Sure, sure.
I worked them all when I had my novice, and long time after that. In fact, I was on a YL net years and years and years ago.
Now, does Bob have a sister who's a ham operator?
Edith.
Okay. Any others in
And
the family?
a brother-in-law.
And he's a ham operator? What are their
Uh-huh.
calls?
Okay, Edith is K5WKK. She was from Louisiana. Then her husband died, and then she moved up here and married Dr. Larry Pearson, W0BFM. But
Oh, I see.
she didn't change her call. She's still K5WKK.
I see.
And his brother-in-law is Nelson Gwynn from Grand Rapids, Michigan, W8PFL. And he has a niece that was a ham. I forget her call, but I think she let her license go.
Sure.
So-
Okay. Anything else you can think
And
of? that we
nothing. Yeah, I have to say that I put the 520.
That's right, you
that,
did.
That SB220 together.
should- Bob mentioned that.
In fact, I think you were here when I boo-booed on the bias hookup on it, weren't you, when we first turned it on?
I guess we looked at it.
Yeah, and I had it in this hole instead of this hole.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. A diode reversed or something?
Yeah, it
No
was a
big
Zener
deal, but-
diode. I had one wire wrong, so
Sure. But
whatever.
we fired it up, I remember, put it in
Yeah.
a dummy load or did something.
Yeah, the idling current didn't do right, so
Uh-huh. Well, anyway, that's
you knew
good.
you knew right where to look.
Um,
Oh, I suppose, did Bob tell you we have 5 grandchildren?
no, he didn't say anything
We
about
do.
your family. 5
We
grandchildren.
got 4 granddaughters and 1 grandson,
Do they live around here?
all within 7 miles.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's nice.
So we see them all the time.
Sure.
I hope you didn't get a picture of that Christmas tree. It's supposed to be taken down. I mean, this is January 18th.
You've got a lot of area here. Let me take...
Oh, one more thing I have to say, Bob probably didn't, is that
you built
I'll say
that.
we, but he was my helper, built the radio console
Is
here.
that right? The console?
Yeah, the whole schmo, the
That's
doors
pretty
and
neat.
everything, and all the shelves that the tubes are on. And
That's-
Bob, I'm bragging myself up.
That's about the biggest radio console I've seen in ham radio.
Oh well, and it's all made out of inch birch.
Is that right?
Yep, and
Looks neat.
they're all doweled together, and
Uh-huh. Oh, where do you have your workshop?
it's over on the west of the place.
Oh, you've got another building for that.
Yeah, 14 by 24.
Oh. Do you do a lot
When
of
we
building?
when we built this was my workshop, but I couldn't keep the sawdust out of the house. It went right through the windows.
Oh, yes. You
So-
have another entrance over here on the north, I see.
No, that's
Isn't it?
that
A
window. That window goes into our bedroom. This
Okay.
window goes in. These two go into our spare bedroom,
Okay, I see.
and I have my workshop over there. But when we built this, the workshop was here, and this thing was so wide and long here. This top, it all comes apart, that we had to take a window out and slide it through to get it in.
Oh, I see.
So
okay, I'm going to take a little more looking around here, and I'll
Okay.
ask you about that. Okay, tell me about this microphone.
Well, I don't know too much about it other than Bob's dad built it. And
How long ago would you say?
oh, Lordy, I
It's
don't know.
spring mounted, I see.
Spring mounted, and I don't know what the main
Must
part
be
is.
a carbon type mic.
Yeah, it's carbon.
Sure.
And I don't know. He made the ring and the base. It's got pipe threads on the bottom, so I just threaded it into that little
I gotta take a
block
look
of
at
wood.
some of your other tubes here. You've got all kinds of old and new tubes, not that old, but some of them.
Some of the old ones are still good too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Here's an
He's got
unusual
his
one up
first
here.
tube. Did he show you his first tube?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
January 1988, and you might tell me who you are, call letters, where you live, and just ramble on.
Well, I'm Bill Lambie, W0DCM, and we get a kick out of a lot of the guys when we use the phonetics dogs, cats, and mice, and I expect probably those phonetics were hung on these call letters many years ago by my brother Leonard.
And what was his call?
Many of you might remember his call W0 ZPH, W0 Zebra Peter Henry. And he operated out of Swift in the after World War II, late 40s, and we've been on the air since that time also.
What bands did he operate at that time?
Oh, back in those days, principal band would have been 160 meters, but also 80 and 40 meter CW. We weren't permitted phone back in those days on those bands.
And how about yourself? What bands did you operate?
Same thing.
Sure.
And our voices were very much the same, and so whether we were in the same shack handing the mic back and forth, or whether we were on farms a mile and a quarter apart, flicking one switch on and the other off, people didn't know
I see.
which brother they had.
Sure. Okay. I remember him. I remember hearing him from Swift. In that, were there any others over in the Swift area that operated?
No. There weren't any hams in Swift other than ourselves.
Who are the old timers from around Warroad here that you can recall? Call letters and names.
Oh, the oldest old timer in Warroad proper would have been W0FXV.
Right.
WA0CEL's dad, Lindsey Dunn, used to be on CW Spark here back in the 20s, but that's before.
I see.
Any time, I can't remember it. I wasn't aware of it at the time. Elmer Carlson, Bob's
Right.
W0KCP's dad, was the old timer, starting out in Roosevelt about 1928, and then coming to Warroad probably very early 30s, because I perhaps first heard him on a broadcast set with a so-called shortwave band on it in
regenerative type set? Or?
No, this was an RCA Superhead, 2.5 volt tubes, and the old round top. It was table model cabinet. It was a good set.
Oh yeah.
And we could copy then W0FXV, and the amateur he would have been talking to a fair share of the time would have been 9CYY from Oak Island, a fellow named Fred Peterson. And I remember, and I heard him again here just the other day, 9YEQ, presently 0, W0YEQ, Jim Lottie out in Jamestown.
Sure.
And 9GWM, Alvin from Clearbrook is one of the old timers that we heard back in those days.
Sure.
9LBR Hig from Red Lake Falls.
From Red Lake Falls. That's who my cousin W9OTJ took his test from.
Oh yes.
W9LBR.
Oh yes. LBR had his antenna tied to a water tower, so he was very powerful in here.
Sure.
A fellow that we've followed over the years and haven't been able to meet personally is K0GQG. Now his original call was 9 INS.
I don't know.
My memory, I didn't think I'd ever forget that, but I think it is an INS. And he was generating his own power. At that time, his handle was Clarence, and he was living in Thief River Falls.
Yes, I remember meeting him one time. Now,
is that the right call?
I don't know about the call, but I also knew his son. I worked with his son with the telephone company. I'm trying to think of his name too, and I can't remember it. Orvis. Orvis Nelson.
Okay, that
Sounds
sounds
familiar to me.
right. Yeah.
And I can't remember if Orvis was a ham operator now, but we worked together at the Baudette Air Force Base.
Mm-hmm. Well, Clarence is quite a fella. He's got to be real talented. We have worked him off and on. When I remembered him as 9 INS out of Thief River Falls. We weren't licensed then, didn't even bootleg, and that came later.
Okay.
But anyway,
Can you tell me some about W0VWD?
W0VWD was Andy Gilbert Anderson.
Okay, I'm also I'm thinking of a fellow Ivor Hansen.
VXD was Gilbert Anderson.
Right.
Ivor Hansen was Very Wild Duck from Oak Island.
Right.
Yeah.
Where does he live now?
Ivor died, and it isn't perhaps over a year ago that he passed away in Portland.
Oh.
And I really felt bad because we've been in Portland 2 years, 2 springs hand running. A little less than a year ago we were in Portland, and then 2 years ago we were there. And had we looked for him 2 years ago, we could have seen him.
Oh, I see.
I did see Ivor in Phoenix some years ago. We visited he and Charlotte in the little travel trailer.
He had a resort or something up there at Oak Island?
He had Oak Island Resort, a family place at Oak Island, and he was the source of a lot of good humor.
The reason Ivor is important to me, he sent me the first QSL card I ever had.
Wow.
It was before I had a ham license. I had the opportunity to talk to him on my cousin's rig, W0OTJ, from Fargo, and he was using his... what was that? What kind of a rig was that? Common back then. It wasn't a Globe Trotter. It was not a Latine. Oh, I can't remember. And the harder I try, the worse it'll get.
My memory fails me on that one too. But I know that he would say that we must be getting out good today because we have a lot of standing waves on our feed line.
Oh, yes.
And what else? Oh, you stopped in and you had a piece of homemade pie, and you'd compliment Charlotte on the pie, and he'd say, well, this is nothing. He said, you should have tasted the pie my first wife made.
Oh.
Now, things like this have
sure.
been passed along about Ivor, but he was a good scout. And I worked him on Mobile one night. I was driving out to a football game, and I heard this fellow with the accent, and it turned out to be Ivor. I worked him from Warroad to Phoenix on 20, and I never did go to the football game. I just sat there and enjoyed it tremendously.
Sure. Tell me about what you have here now. What are you using for a rig? For instance, what we were talking on a few minutes ago. What have you got there?
Oh, that is I haven't had it a long time. I got it from Ken over east of Bedennans, or HQL. He's graduated to more power and greater features. It's a Kenwood, and it's 25 watt all mode, 2 meter.
Sure.
And up in the air we have a 215 WB Cushcraft, horizontally polarized, and it's way up at the top, so it's about 65, 70 feet up.
Sure. And you're operating single sideband with that?
Single sideband. We have a gas-fed preamp that really makes the receiver come to life.
Uh-huh.
And we haven't had it on the air all that long or spent too much time at it, so we don't know a lot about it.
Sure. What about your other equipment here? All coming on over to your main rig for 75 and 20 and some of those bands. What bands do you usually operate?
A TS 830S Kenwood barefoot, and we have a Trilon rotor that is an old, this is the indicator of course, but the rotor is an old, I suppose even pre-World War II, a double worm affair with a capacitor starred motor in it. And it rotates a TB5ES Tel Rex tribander, 5-element tribander out of Asbury Park, New Jersey.
I see.
And up at above that, we have a vertical polarized antenna, horizontal stack for FM, 2-meter FM, and then above that, the horizontal polarized Cushcraft for 2-meter.
What do I see up above the main rig you have there?
Well, a collection of things that aren't even in use.
Oh, I see. Okay.
There's a marine
That's a
radio
marine one
there,
that I'm looking at there, and then I see a gun set.
Some old AM stuff, Gonset G66B
Sure.
and LMAC AF67 items that haven't been.
You used that in the car a bit, didn't you?
Yeah, but those things haven't been used for years.
Sure.
I have that friend I told you about, Ab K0CHZ on AM, and he's coaxing me to get some RF back, some AM RF back on the band.
Okay. Do you do much mobiling now?
Only 2-meter FM. When we've been traveling with that little rig, the small motorhome, when we stop and we're more than overnight, I string an inverted V for 20, and I have a couple of 75-meter legs that I can tie on it. And we've had a lot of fun operating portable.
Sure.
That way. We last winter we were in Phoenix with it, and then Shoreview, Brownsville, Texas.
Oh yes.
We find that having the results improve whenever we leave Warroad.
Oh, I see.
I've had different theories as to why that is, but it seems like you just it can be good here, but it seems to be more consistently good. We've done that from Los Angeles too, and it's fun.
Sure. You material. You've also got some old equipment. You've got that spark transmitter we saw in one of the pictures. Who was that? Was 9ZC's?
That belonged to John Gellhog, 9ZC.
Yeah. And when do you think that was made? About.
Well, we have a Sears Roebuck ham parts, component parts catalog that pictures this equipment, and it was. I didn't happen to run across it as we looked through this old stuff, but it dates back prior to 1920. The catalog is in good shape.
Sure. You've got some other stuff here. You've got a receiver with some old 101A tubes and that type of thing.
Yeah, it's a portable, the RCA portable. I think everybody who was around back in the 20s or 30s would remember it as pictured in early ARRL handbooks.
Sure. What are some of the other old pieces of equipment you have? Are you planning on putting them into a museum or anything like that, or?
I don't really know what to do with them at this point.
Sure, sure.
They sure should be kept. They should be preserved.
Sure. Okay. Well, I guess that's about it then, unless you can think of anything else.
I appreciate you coming, Gordy.
Well, I appreciate you allowing me to record you.
It's been a long time since you were up here, and you were overdue. And as far as the old things are concerned, unless somebody comes around who is likewise interested, they just, so far have stayed in the box. But with retirement coming April 1st of this year, perhaps we'll get into things, get them cataloged and organized, and start to really appreciate them.
Sure. Again, your name, call letters, QTH.
Bill, W0DCM. We live here at Warroad. We started out at Swift many years ago. Very 70.